The 7th year since my husband feigned death. My dragon and phoenix twins turned 3. Mother. There's a dirty old man at the door claiming to be my father. I patted my daughter's little head, not even sparing that man a glance. Nonsense. Your father only became the top scholar last year. Where would another father suddenly appear? Before my words faded, a booming voice erupted from behind my daughter. You shameless woman! With my husband still lying peacefully in his bed. Where have your wifely virtues gone? I lifted my eyelids. This man, covered in dust and ragged clothes, had an oily face and broad shoulders. His features vaguely resembled my late husband. So I closed my eyes again. Lingxi, go find your husband. What kind of nonsense is this? Trying to deceive me? Lingxi answered with a crisp yes. As she walked out, she murmured a precisely controlled complaint. Who doesn't know my young mistress and her husband are a model couple, supporting each other like heavenly beings? What kind of dog-tongued bastard dares to use my mistress's name? Her husband is the martial arts champion. I'll chop you to pieces. Before Lingxi had taken 10 steps, the dog-tongued bastard panicked himself. Lingxi. My tongue's all twisted. Don't you recognize me? I'm Wang Xiaowen. Remember when I went to the capital for the imperial exams? You were the one who gave me my travel money. Seeing Lingxi staring at him doubtfully, Wang Xiaowen forced a friendly expression and pointed to his swollen face. Me? Wang Xiaowen. Lingxi grabbed the broom from the courtyard and swung it at Wang Xiaowen. You call yourself a dog but you're barking like a mutt. Many have given me travel money, but none cling on like you, demanding endless toasts till dawn. Get out of here, you dog! Beaten by Lingxi, Wang Xiaowen yelped and hopped behind the stone table, too scared to utter a sound. Lingxi turned to look at me. I raised an eyebrow, and we shared a knowing glance. Wang Xiaowen had indeed briefly been my husband. After all, he was the first among the scholars I sponsored to achieve success. I had once funded every scholar from the surrounding villages heading to the capital for the imperial examinations. Later, some failed the exams. Others vanished without a trace. Gritting my teeth, I crossed out every useless name until only Wang Xiaowen remained. With father gravely ill and the risk of our family line ending, I had no time for thorough vetting. We hastily exchanged marriage contracts and wed. Then father passed away. When my mother-in-law learned I intended to observe 3 years of mourning for my father, she turned on me immediately. Our family's rule is clear: a daughter-in-law isn't considered part of the family until she bears a son. She has no place in the ancestral tomb. You'll manage the household chores. Only when you produce a son will you truly enter this family. I ran my fingers over my ledger, surveyed my house, and glanced at our family gate. Then I slammed my hand down on the table. You bloody well know what it means to be a son-in-law. I glanced at Wang Xiaowen behind the stone table. Though his appearance had changed slightly, he was still the same spineless coward he'd always been. Back then, at my roar, he'd collapsed to his knees. My lady! Filial piety and brotherly duty are paramount. Not just 3 years, even 6. I'd support you. Now, after Lingxi's beating with a stick, he cowered behind the stone table, kneeling on both knees. Husband is the head of the wife. I don't even care that you remarried. You unfaithful woman. Who would dare marry you? I rose slowly, stretching lazily without a care for my appearance. Nonsense. I was famously devoted back then. I mourned my mother-in-law for 3 years and even saved her from a fire. The authorities were going to erect a memorial arch for me. I pulled out my little handkerchief and dabbed at my eyes for effect. Alas! My mother-in-law's blessings were thin. She left me behind like that. Before I could continue my virtuous martyr act, Wang Xiaowen's eyes widened. What? Mother's dead? Yes. Burned alive. I feigned sobbing again. Lingji, catching the hint, swung her broom and began beating Wang Xiaowen. You bastard! You put on quite the act. But what does this have to do with you? After shoving and beating him out the door, Lingji grew slightly concerned. Miss. He won't let this go. What if he comes back? I couldn't care less. Flopping back down to bask in the sun. Silly girl. If he doesn't come, how can I kill him openly? When Wang Xiaowen showed up for the second time, he brought along his distant cousin and an elderly relative from his hometown. Xu Yao and Xu Jun were playing in the courtyard. The moment Wang Xiaowen appeared, Xu Yao shrieked with delight. Auntie! Eagle chasing chicks! Chasing chicks! As Lingji burst out of the main hall, arms akimbo, Wang Xiaowen darted behind the elder clan member, peeking out timidly and stammering. You. A gentleman uses words, not fists. Lingji's face instantly lit up with a radiant smile. Oh, isn't this our esteemed elder Wang? My apologies for not greeting you properly. Wang Xiaowen followed Lingji, who was performing a Sichuan opera face-changing act, into the house. He cowered behind the old clan elder, showing none of the fierceness he displayed earlier when shouting accusations of moral misconduct. The old clan elder cleared his throat. Ah, Wan Li. This is a bit of a tricky situation. Hearing that name after so long nearly made me spit out my tea. I slammed my teacup down on the table and brushed off my sleeves. I say, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want. Who is Madame Wang? When my mother-in-law said I hadn't married in yet. You didn't call me that. The old clan chief choked. That year, when Wang Xiaowen returned home, he played the role of the devoted son-in-law for barely half a month before the imperial decree appointing him as an 8th-rank official arrived. Wang Xiaowen, riding high on his success, departed to assume his post. He left his mother behind to stir up trouble with me. She brought up the old saying about a sonless daughter-in-law not being welcome, even summoning the clan elders to bear witness. The clan elder put on an air of reasonableness. Mrs. Li, managing this household isn't easy for a young woman like you. Having a child to rely on would be good, it's only a matter of time. Besides, merchants don't fight officials. I nodded, pretending to understand. How wise, merchants don't fight officials. I'm truly enlightened. Then I turned around and bribed a few ruffians. By day, they'd forcibly call him brother. And by night, they'd slip anonymous letters accusing him of corruption and bribery. Within months, he couldn't stand the cold shoulder anymore and slinked back home. I relished the sight of Wang Xiaowen's face turning as ashen as the old clan chief's. As I unleashed a barrage of words at both of them. He wasn't even properly married into the family. Yet he refused to leave my home. After he died, I supported his mother for years. Now that my children are grown, he sends this worthless creature to my doorstep? What's so difficult about that? Where's the hardship? Back when the authorities praised my filial devotion for keeping my widowed vows and serving my mother-in-law, granting the clan silver, that wasn't difficult at all. I slammed the teacup and saucer onto the floor with a crash. Before I could unleash another torrent of fury, that distant cousin collapsed onto Wang Xiaowen, sobbing uncontrollably. Husband, this sister is so fierce. I'm so scared. I stared in disbelief. No way, I hadn't even picked up the shovel yet. And she'd already dug her own grave? I'd long suspected Wang Xiaowen had a mistress. After all, not long after he'd slipped back home, my mother-in-law and I had erupted in a fight. She wanted me to settle down and prepare to bear children, leaving the shop to Wang Xiaowen's cousins to manage. After I threw things, yelled, and prepared to divorce him, Wang Xiaowen suddenly went into the mountains to clear his head and fell to his death. In that environment where the dead held supreme importance, my mother-in-law swiftly elevated me to a position of honor. She claimed our bond was profound. that she would have followed her son to the grave. But duty to her mother-in-law forced her to mourn with tears and preserve her virtue. Before me, she groveled and humbled herself, behind my back. She strutted with arrogance, showing no sorrow whatsoever. I suspected she was biding her time, waiting for an opportunity to eliminate me, or for me to make the first move and break the facade. I tilted my head, watching this cousin who had suddenly appeared with keen interest. Back then, I certainly wouldn't have rashly torn down the pretense and ruined my own reputation. Thus, both sides fell into a delicate stalemate. I couldn't say how many grandchildren it took to make Grandma endure 3 years of this in front of me. The moment my cousin spoke, the old clan chief's brow furrowed. His cane thudded heavily on the ground. Nonsense. Xiao Wen. You claimed amnesia after falling off a cliff. I accompanied you through this ordeal. How dare you place me in such a position? Wang Xiaowen swiftly yanked his arm from his cousin's embrace and leaped several paces away. Don't talk nonsense. When was I ever your husband? I'm deeply devoted to my wife. I rushed here the moment I regained my senses. I only wanted you to verify my identity. Don't destroy the bond between us. The three bickered fiercely. I folded my arms, watching them fight like dogs. When the moment seemed right, I tapped the table. So, Elder Wang has confirmed he is Wang Xiaowen, correct? Absolutely true. Oh, I drew out the syllable, smiling at Wang Xiaowen. Too bad your mother said we're not truly married. Even if you are, why bother causing trouble for me? Wang Xiaowen pulled the marriage contract they'd exchanged years ago from his sleeve and slammed it on the table. A child doesn't speak of their parents' faults, he declared. In my heart, you've always been my wife. I picked up the contract, glancing at my cousin whose face had twisted into a grimace. A faint smile touched my lips. This is troublesome, I said. After all, my child is already 3 years old. The old clan chief Wang gestured grandly, lecturing at length. It's just fate playing tricks, no one could have foreseen this. But since I'm happy now, a modest sum of silver to settle this privately should suffice. I clutched the marriage contract, my smile laden with meaning. Settle it privately? Who wants to settle with you? After Wang Xiaowen left yesterday, I sent people to investigate. Barely 2 months after faking his death, he resurfaced in another village under a new name, marrying this distant cousin from afar. They had a child that very year. No wonder my mother-in-law suddenly took to fasting and chanting sutras, disappearing into the mountains for month-long retreats at the slightest provocation. My gaze fell upon the gold bracelet on my distant cousin's wrist, and I let out a cold snort. Back then, I was preoccupied with expanding my business and neglected to manage this large family. Later, when my mother-in-law passed away, I gained considerable benefits under the guise of official commendation. I had intended to let it rest, but these two have come crawling back. I sat there silent while Wang Xiaowen's eyes darted around restlessly. The whole wasn't modest, his gaze practically screamed greed. Seeing my change in demeanor, the old clan chief Wang smugly stroked his beard, convinced he'd struck a nerve. Old man here sees your child is no longer young. A daughter marrying 2 husbands is hardly a glorious affair. You're not short of silver. Simply donate 1,000 taels to the clan and provide some compensation for Xiaowen. Old man here guarantees you'll never be troubled again. I feigned persuasion, pretending to glance at Wang Xiaowen. I myself wished for no trouble. But Xiaowen. Before Wang Xiaowen could speak, my cousin had already rushed forward, her eyes brimming with tears. Xiaowen and I have been married 7 years, and our child is already several years old. I implore you, sister and husband, to consider the innocence of our child and resolve this matter properly. Perhaps sensing my willingness to pay, Wang Xiaowen dropped the act of feigned affection. 500 taels shouldn't be too much. My fingers tapped rhythmically on the table, my heart brimming with satisfaction. It's not much. But I have one condition: the clan must provide reliable proof of your identity and your marriage. A flicker of wariness crossed Wang Xiaowen's eyes. TSK. I'm a merchant. I need documents. Otherwise, what if you use this matter to extort me again in the future? The old clan chief Wang made the decision. Fine. 1,500 taels of silver for the written agreement. I nodded briskly. 1,500 taels of silver? Not happening. Accompanying the document bearer back were constables from the prefectural office. When I met Wang Xiaowen in the prefect's private reception room, his eyes blazed with fury. Bloodshot and red. You vile woman. How dare you ruin me? The magistrate sat in the seat of honor. With a single glance, the constable began slapping Wang Xiaowen across the face, delivering dozens of sharp slaps. Insolent peasant! Do you not recognize who sits upon this dais? How dare you speak so boldly? Wang Xiaowen seemed stunned by the blows, stammering incoherently for a long while. Forced to kneel obediently on the ground, he couldn't even lift his head. Madam Li. Prefect Kai turned to me. Are you certain this is your former husband who abandoned his wife to remarry? I drew out my handkerchief and wiped my dry, almost flaky corners of my eyes, not a single tear in sight. This humble woman truly wished to disbelieve it. But I turned my face away, pretending not to see the stack of documents. This commoner can explain. Wang Xiaowen trotted out his amnesia theory again, spittle flying as he spoke. Alas! He failed to realize that abandoning his wife to remarry was merely the most insignificant part of this affair. The year his mother-in-law died, Kai Zhizhou was still only a county magistrate. When he rushed to the fire scene to comfort the frightened villagers, he saw me, my ankle sprained from bravely rescuing my mother-in-law. One fire revealed a chaste and filial widow who had cared for her mother-in-law for 3 years while still finding the courage to risk her life to save others. County Magistrate Kai couldn't even wait until morning. He immediately reported the story of the county's simple folk and their devotion to elders and family to the higher authorities. With his exceptional writing skills, the prefect not only bestowed a commemorative plaque, exempted taxes, and distributed silver, but also awarded Kai the highest rating in his official evaluation. When the 3-year term ended, the incoming prefect recommended Kai for promotion before departing. Now Wang Xiaowen steps forward, telling everyone that Prefect Kai, I'm not dead. My chastity was a sham. I just dumped my mother on others to care for her. And I've actually had a son for years now. A perfectly good, touching story had been twisted into a tale of deceiving an orphaned girl. I stole a glance under the cover of my handkerchief. Sure enough, Magistrate Kai's face had turned dark. Shut up. If you truly knew nothing, you should be ashamed right now. You failed to care for your own mother, to bring her joy in her twilight years. Yet you threaten and extort the very woman who raised her. You are unworthy of being called human. Wang Xiaowen couldn't comprehend Kai Zhizhou's fury. While he tried to justify himself by claiming he had no intention of abandoning his wife to remarry, he was subtly insinuating that Kai Zhizhou's mother had been deliberately killed by him. 2 veins bulged on Kai Zhizhou's forehead. You insolent peasant! What nonsense are you spouting? If it wasn't deliberate, how could only the room where my mother lived catch fire out of nowhere? His act of being a filial son and virtuous grandson made me laugh. Exactly. Out of nowhere. Of course it wouldn't catch fire. When the old woman first began praising me, my guard was already up. Later, as the smug satisfaction grew impossible to hide in her eyes, I realized Wang Xiaowen's death was likely a deception. She cherished every ornament in my room. If a servant ever broke one, her anguish felt like a knife cutting into her own flesh. It wasn't until I returned unexpectedly from the shop one day that I overheard her plotting my death. She'd come to regard every blade of grass and tree in this house as her own. I'd long grown weary of her playing the martyr right under my nose. Yet I'd held back, afraid her actions might tarnish my reputation and ruin my business. So that day, while she was secretly tampering with things around my room. I had Lingji deliver her a trio of fire-starting tools. When the flames erupted, I wailed amidst the chaos, putting on a show of selflessly rescuing my mother-in-law. Truthfully, while fighting the fire, I kicked the window she tried to escape through, unfortunately twisting my ankle in the process. Watching Wang Xiaowen on the ground, sniveling and tearfully reminiscing about his mother, I sighed softly. Magistrate Kai. This humble woman has long harbored a suspicion, though it's too horrifying to voice. Magistrate Kai raised an eyebrow. Oh. This humble woman has always suspected that Wang Xiaowen intended to kill both his mother and this humble woman. Wang Xiaowen, disregarding even basic decorum, lunged forward, clenched fists raised to strike me. What the hell are you babbling about? The constables flanked him, each delivering a kick to his knees, sending him crashing to the ground. Wang Xiaowen lay prostrate before me, straining to lift his head. You say I killed my own mother. I sighed softly once more. Magistrate Kai surely recalls that after the fire, the peasant woman submitted a list of losses. Yet when Wang Xiaowen visited the other day, she saw the gold bracelet from that list on his current wife's wrist. Unfortunately, she was too far to confirm. If true, this matter, I trailed off. But Magistrate Kai clearly understood. Whether his mother-in-law knew Wang Xiaowen was alive and stole the bracelet, or Wang Xiaowen plundered the house and accidentally burned his own mother to death, neither scenario reflects well on him. Truthfully, this matter could be easily resolved. I looked at Wang Xiaowen, prostrate on the ground, with a magnanimous expression. As long as my husband remains dead, losing a piece or two of jewelry isn't a grave crime. Is it? Magistrate Kai? Magistrate Kai's expression eased slightly, yet his gaze upon Wang Xiaowen remained as cold as death. But to let such a disloyal, unfilial, unrighteous scoundrel escape punishment would be a dereliction of my duty as a magistrate. 60 strokes of the cane. 1 acre of poor land shall be retained for his son's sustenance, while all remaining private property is forfeited to Lady Li as compensation. Send word to the Wang household, any future acts of fraud shall be punished with the utmost severity. As Wang Xiaowen was dragged away for flogging, Magistrate Kai turned his gentle gaze toward me. Did Lady Li refuse the government plaque back then because she sensed something? I chose not to engage with his probing. Not at all. My humble household simply needed someone to carry out the duty. The character for filial piety might fit, but chastity is far beyond my station. Magistrate Kai smiled. It's all thanks to Lady Li's thoughtful consideration. I smiled too. Leaving a way out, it's just being considerate. As I stepped out of Magistrate Kai's residence, I encountered my distant cousin Qian Fenfang, wailing and weeping as she came to fetch Wang Xiaowen. Wang Xiaowen lay on a bench, his flesh torn and bloodied. Qian Fenfang gritted her teeth, glaring at me as if she could bore a hole through me. You venomous woman. Stealing someone's destined partner wasn't enough, you had to destroy their family too? My brow furrowed. Stealing? Back then, my husband was already betrothed to me. It was you. All because of you. I've lived these years in the shadows. I shook my head, adjusting my sleeves. Did I force him? Did I hold a knife to his throat? When we exchanged betrothal documents, he seemed quite eager. Didn't he? My gaze drifted back to her bracelet. Do you truly not know where this came from? Or are you feigning ignorance? Qian Fenfang instinctively withdrew her hand into her sleeve. Clearly, she knew exactly. Abandoning your wife to remarry. Neglecting your parents, this beating is the least you deserve. I advise you both to behave yourselves. It's for the best. Qian Fenfang's eyes darted nervously. Unable to speak further, she hurriedly left with her family, carrying Wang Xiaowen away. Lingji followed behind me, pursing her lips. Miss, you're just letting them go like that? That's far too lenient. Oh, don't think that way. What fun would it be to take that worthless life outright? It's a favor to Prefect Kai. Besides, how many elderly women buy goods because of my shop sign? Punishing him would only tarnish my reputation. I watched them disappear into the distance, my mind racing with calculations. Of course, his sudden visit years after the incident wasn't due to a sudden bout of epilepsy. Wang Xiaowen's family wasn't well off, otherwise he wouldn't have accepted my financial aid. He didn't take much gold or silver when he faked his death either. Later, he must have gotten comfortable, probably thanks to his mother's frequent support. The other day while auditing my shop's accounts, I unexpectedly spotted Wang Xiaowen emerging from a gambling den. A man with a little silver. Not much silver. Who wants to create value but can't? It's no surprise he took this wrong path. Judging by Qian Fenfang's appearance and demeanor, Wang Xiaowen hadn't yet gambled himself into utter ruin. Perhaps he hadn't yet mustered the nerve to drain his family's resources dry, which is why he came begging at my door. But this time, Magistrate Kai confiscated his private assets. It seemed he was nearing the point of no return. Magistrate Kai sent me a business deal, and for the next 3 months, I was swamped with work. One day, as I passed by the shop opposite the gambling house again, Wang Xiaowen suddenly appeared from somewhere, stumbling forward and dropping to his knees before me. Madam! Madam! I'm truly at my wit's end. Please save me. Save me! I looked down. Wang Xiaowen was still in rags. But this time it felt fundamentally different from his previous fake-looking state. His eyes were sunken and dark-ringed. His entire body reeked of foul odor, and his protruding cheekbones made his eyes appear even more fierce. The guards reacted swiftly, blocking Wang Xiaowen 3 paces away. You scoundrel! Making baseless accusations, what are your intentions? 2 burly men emerged from the gambling house, grabbed Wang Xiaowen, and delivered vicious punches. You bastard! You're lying to us? Wang Xiaowen collapsed like a sack of rotten mud, cowering with each blow. His voice pitiful. Brother! Brother! I didn't! I was raising money. Raising? I've seen plenty begging for silver on the streets, but never for a wife. His massive fist swung down again. Wang Xiaowen scrambled away, clutching his head, dodging while wailing his innocence. That woman is my wife. We have a marriage contract. The burly man glanced in my direction and sneered coldly. You think I'm blind? Do you really believe I wouldn't recognize Manager Li? You think you're worthy? He kicked Wang Xiaowen flying 4 or 5 steps away. Then, surprisingly, he turned back, clasped his fists, and bowed to me. Ha! We've caused a minor disturbance. Startling Manager Li. Boss Chow will personally apologize at your doorstep another day. I chuckled. Debt collection inevitably involves friction. Apologies? This fellow's stubborn as ever. Magistrate Kai disciplined him just the other day. Yet he remains incorrigible. Unrepentant indeed, he's even offended Magistrate Kai. Then we must uphold justice. The burly man nodded solemnly, his expression saying, I'm a law-abiding citizen, standing firmly with the authorities. I waved my handkerchief to dispel the air polluted by Wang Xiaowen's presence, glancing at him as if by accident. A person still has a family. After all, if others can't be relied upon, can't one count on their own clan? I only intended to incite Wang Xiaowen to return to the clan and demand some silver, to make them lose face. To give them a taste of their own medicine. After all, that old clan chief, who flaunted his seniority, valued face above all else. The sight of him lecturing his son in the courtyard was utterly revolting. Unexpectedly, Wang Xiaowen took an unconventional path. He broke into the old clan chief's house in the dead of night to steal. When discovered, he panicked and accidentally crippled the old man. When the Wang family members pinned him down, He argued stubbornly that the silver the old chief had collected years ago was meant for his widow. Since he hadn't died, that money rightfully belonged to him. This utterly preposterous tale quickly spread throughout the surrounding villages. The old clan chief, unable to bear the shame, sent envoys to seek me out. This time, however, he wasn't offering silver for a quiet settlement. His servants brought 500 taels of silver, pleading for me to go to the Wang household and prove that Wang Xiaowen was not the real Wang Xiaowen. Weighing the silver in my hands, I found the whole situation utterly laughable. When I arrived at the Wang residence, the old clan chief bore no resemblance to his former imposing self. He was carried and placed into a chair, struggling to sit upright without its support, yet still clinging to his ridiculous air of authority. His voice rasped like a bellows, wheezing and strained. "Mrs. Li, you've come." I sat down at the head of the table without a second thought, crossing my legs casually before him. "Old Master Wang," I said, "perhaps you should set aside your pride." Even Magistrate Kai addressed me as Mrs. Li. "Is this how one behaves when seeking a favor?" He looked at me as if he might drown me in a pig cage the next moment. "Nonsense. Your husband doesn't bear the Li surname." "How could? Married into the family? Should I change my surname to his?" I shrugged. "Either way, it sounds awkward to me. Why not just call me Madam Li? That rolls off the tongue." I produced the document proving Wang Xiaowen's identity, once given by Elder Wang, and toyed with it in my hands. Elder Wang seemed choked, a gurgling sound rising from his throat. He stopped fixating on titles and instead signaled his younger relatives behind him to bring everyone inside. After just a few days apart, Wang Xiaowen looked haggard, and 3 of his fingers were missing. The look he gave me finally held not a shred of hope. "You poisonous woman. It's you. All you're doing, you schemed me into this mess step by step." I glanced at the elderly clan chieftain. His tense expression was even more grim than Wang Xiaowen's. Just as I was about to speak, the old man's raspy voice cut in like a bellows. "You madman. Even now, you dare make baseless accusations. Li." Cough. Li the shopkeeper was a devoted wife in our clan. What connection could she possibly have with a thief like you? Li manager. "Look at this man. Is he the same person who was once my Xiaowen? You old scoundrel. Before, you said we'd split the gold and silver 50-50. But now you're cowering like a turtle. Serves you right to lie in bed for the rest of your life." When had Elder Wang ever been cursed at like this by a junior? His face turned dark and purple. I couldn't get enough of the spectacle. "Ah, chieftain, please calm your anger and take care of your health. If anything were to happen to you, this would reach the authorities." I couldn't hide my schadenfreude. Once the lawsuit began, who could predict how the rumors would spread? By then, even if I said Wang Xiaowen wasn't a Wang family member, would anyone believe me? For such a respectable family to produce this sort of creature, wouldn't that be a complete loss of both substance and face? Old clan chief Wang's face turned from green to red with suppressed fury. But he simply couldn't afford the humiliation. In the end, he swallowed his pride and retreated. Manager Li only asked, "Is this man truly Xiaowen?" I rose, looking down at Wang Xiaowen with raised eyebrows. The certificate in my hand fell into the earthen basin where paper offerings were burned. Xiaowen was once an educated man. He passed the imperial examinations and held an 8th-rank official post. How could he become such a creature? "What do you say, Clan Chief Wang?" It felt like a silent slap across Wang Xiaowen's face. He looked up at me, his expression tinged with something resembling remorse. It's a pity Grandma endured so much hardship raising Xiaowen, hoping for a proper funeral with the clay pot smashed and the spirit tablet revered. Who knew her wish wouldn't come true?" Wang Xiaowen lowered his head, a sound like a wounded small animal escaping his throat. He crawled on his knees toward his parents' spirit tablets. only to have his hand trampled by a younger Wang family member. The look of disgust unmistakable. What are you pretending to be? Some reformed rogue? Don't you dare soil my family's ancestral hall. Wang Xiaowen was still wailing over there. I was wrong. I'll change. I truly am. Father. Mother. Alas. The play lost its charm after the third act. I shot a cold glance at the old clan chief. He was basking in the satisfaction of preserving his family's fine traditions. All they ever talk about is settling things privately with money. No wonder they can't raise decent young people. What a family of poetry, books, and etiquette. TSK. To me, they're nothing but a nest of rotten fish and shrimp. I strode away under the furious glare of the old clan chief, leaving him standing there, eyes bulging with rage, yet unable to vent his fury. The Wang family thought denying the incident would bury it. But the gossip-hungry women spread the story across every village within 10 miles. Even children composed nursery rhymes mocking Wang Xiaowen. Elder Wang tried to settle the scandal by arranging a marriage between his eligible young man and a daughter from a wealthy family. But the matchmaker was chased out the door the moment he arrived. Who would want their daughter in that cesspool of yours, a family that devours its own? Poor and backward. Drunk on gambling and debauchery. Harboring every kind of filth? They say old Chief Wang was so enraged he spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. Paralyzed. He couldn't expel it in time and choked to death. When Lingji brought the news, I was calculating the profits from that business deal. I stretched lazily, loosening my stiff joints. See? That's why they say one should watch the spectacle and avoid anger. Lingji, however, wasn't as calm as I. She looked somewhat hesitant. What's wrong, miss? Your son-in-law has become deeply involved with a courtesan in the capital. He's bought her freedom and is now trying to bribe our cook to poison you. Lingji. My eyes are big and pretty. Yet why do I always misjudge people? My gaze drifted to the window. Shuyao and Shujun were learning to read and write under their tutor's guidance. How about I play a heartbroken young widow devoted to teaching her children from now on? The end.